I was going to cover something completely different today, but a different topic, but I have to do this one. It's an article I found from The Guardian just yesterday, which was published on the 1st of this month, the title of which is Scotland Set to Pass Gold Standard Domestic Abuse Law. Legislation will cover not only physical abuse, but psychological abuse and controlling behaviour. And I've seen this go on for so many years now, and at this moment in time, when it comes to the absolute hatred of fatherhood and the family, and the determination to destroy the family to a very large extent through false accusations or just simply ridiculous accusations of domestic abuse, Spain are leading the way at the moment, but Scotland look like they're trying to catch up rapidly. I'll cover this as quickly as possible, even though domestic violence is actually my favourite subject. A law setting a gold standard for domestic abuse legislation by incorporating both emotional and physical violence into the same offence is expected to be passed by the Scottish Parliament. Who the hell? Emotional violence? What? So the woman now can just ring the police and say, he hurt my feelings, take him away. And that's exactly what this is going to amount to, because the Scottish police are being brainwashed by the Scottish government regarding this new law, which it says here it is expected to be passed on Thursday. Well, I bet you it did, because it mentions here that this bill has cross-party backing, and the cowardice of the males in parliaments all over the Western world when they hear the words domestic violence, they become spineless, with the exception of Philip Davis MP, who actually stands up for his gender and then gets demonised by the mainstream media as being a misogynist simply for telling the truth. Male MPs just roll over, and the feminists get exactly what they want. And this will just lead to the destruction of more families, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, welcoming the fundamentally innovative legislation, Dr. Marcia Scott, Chief Executive of Scottish Women's Aid, said, Women have been telling us for years that it is emotional abuse that is most harmful. One of the unique things about this bill is that it privileges the experiences of women and children. That's all I need to know. That just tells me that this bill is utterly sexist, as will be confirmed by a politician later in this article. The new law allows the police and courts to pursue someone on a course of conduct offence. It gets more Orwellian by the moment. Dropping down a paragraph, the offence also includes a reasonable person test. And there's an example here from the Scottish Women's Aid of apparently a man moving his wife's car while she was asleep. And this amounted to controlling behaviour. And what, this is something for the police and the courts, is it? Limiting a woman's access to a bank account or prescribing her meal times. These are other apparent examples. So all of this is worthy of the police and the courts. I mean, drop all the muggings of old folks and genuine rapes and criminal damage. Yeah, fuck that. Just let's concentrate on women's feelings being hurt. Anyway, Holyrood's Justice Secretary Michael Matheson also announced £165,000 of dedicated training fund for Scottish Women's Aid. He said the voices of women and children who have experienced domestic abuse are at the heart of this bill. Okay, that's all I need to know from him to skip over to a Scottish Government statistic publication. He said specifically, again, I'll repeat it, it's worth repeating, the voices of women and children. Well, let's have a look at child abuse in Scotland then. And I'll leave links in the comments section, which I'll pin to the top of both the article itself and to this statistical publication from the Scottish Government. And this is let's have a look. These are child protection statistics which resulted in a case conference for the Scottish Social Services. And this is where they had a primary known or suspected abuser. And the figures that I've got here are from 2001 to 2007. And when the 2003 statistics came out, I wrote to every single member of the Scottish Parliament about that, enclosing a table of these figures and didn't receive a single reply, not even a courtesy reply. And since 2007, they no longer have a gender breakdown. I can't imagine why. When I tell you the statistics, maybe you'll make up your own minds. So the natural mother in 2001, she accounted for 1,128 of these case conferences. By 2007, this had risen massively to 1,722. Now, in 2001, the natural father was responsible for the known or suspected abuser in 680 cases. And by 2007, that had dropped to 608. So the last known statistics that I have on gender, 1,722 mothers compared to 608 fathers. And so mothers are far, so I'm quite sure the vast majority of you know, they are far more likely to abuse their children than men. Any political commentary on this from the cowardly males of all the parliaments around the Western world? Hardly a peep, because they're terrified, not just of their own man-hating feminist colleagues, they're terrified mostly of all by the sexist, man-hating media who can destroy their reputation, destroy their career by branding them misogynist and taking away loads of their female voters. Makes you wonder whether women should ever even have been given the right to vote. And the article continues to say this builds on additional funding announced over the festive period to train 140,000 police officers in the new legislation. There's a link there if you want to look at that. I don't think I could even look at it. It will sicken me even more than I already am feeling sick. Since the introduction of an offence of coercive control in England in 2015, yeah, that's right, just copy other countries, concerns have been raised that it is not being used enough and has created... Concerns raised by whom, I wonder? Feminists, I wonder? And has created an unhelpful hierarchy of harms, in part due to a lack of specialist training for police officers. Police officers have been dealing with domestic disputes. The most common one of all is a warring couple, usually fueled by alcohol on the weekends. That the police have been dealing with this for decades and decades. And you may not trust the police, you may not like the police, but when it comes to trusting the police to police these situations, domestic violence situations, or a bunch of pen-pushing bureaucrats, or alternatively vote-grubbing politicians who are desperate to garner the block right to vote of women voters by grovelling to the mainstream media and feminist organisations, I'll take the police's opinion any old day of the week. Anyway, Professor Evan Stark, a former forensic social worker, well, as a social worker he should know full damn well that most child abuse is committed by women, who first developed the concept of coercive control, and heavily influenced the Westminster legislation, described the Scottish Bill as a new gold standard. Final paragraph. Reporting to criticism that the new offence was too broad and that evidence of psychological abuse was harder to gather, Stark said, there is no evidence whatsoever to suggest that creating this broad offence will lead to reduced reporting or policing of simple assaults. It's going to just go up and up and up because you've broadened it precisely. And it continues, when the new definition of abuse was announced in England, reports skyrocketed. There you go, hysterical bloody women making ridiculous accusations against men and ruining their bloody lives, and no doubt resulting in Lord knows how many divorces. And I'm reminded of a quote by Erin Pitsey. For those of you who don't know, she founded the women's refuge movement in the early 1970s. She walked out in disgust at the feminazis, as she described them, who took it over. And she said of them that years later, they set out to destroy the family, and they have almost achieved it. And I've said it numerous times, false accusations of domestic violence are what is destroying the family. And I'll finalise, this is the end of the article, but the critics are right about one thing. What matters now is what happens when the first calls come in under the new law. How will the police and the courts respond to that first caller who insists violence wasn't the worst part? Will she be told, talk about the violence, or what we hope she'll hear, Yes, I know what you mean. What a load of fucking God help society.